I honestly don't know where to start, or if I'm ready to be posting this story of mine, but hopefully it'll help. I know you won't believe me, and honestly I won't even blame you guys. It still doesn't make sense in my own head. I've heard stories about unknown creatures in woods, but never thought I'd encounter one myself, you know? I posted another story about some creepy old people that I'd encountered in the woods, but that's nothing. This makes a good horror story for people, but it eats me every day. But here we go. I love to go hiking. I go with my 3-year-old German Shepherd and let her go unleashed since we like to go to secluded places. Now I have been hiking all over Utah mountains and wanted a new hike that wasn't too far from me. I have an app that tells me about hikes near me, if it is a hard hike, reviews, and if it's dog-friendly. Now I was scrolling through All Trail looking for possibly something new, but I wasn't too hopeful. But to my delight, there was something new. I don't know why I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember it was at the bottom of the list, and it had one review saying good. I thought that was kind of strange, mostly because people love to review hikes and try to tell the city what they can do to improve the hike and make it more safe, but I figured it wasn't a popular hike. So the next day, Kyrie and I packed up our stuff and went up towards the hike. I always carry first aid kit, extra food, a knife, and just emergency stuff in case I get lost. It's important to mention now that Kyrie eats a raw diet, meaning she eats raw meat not cooked. And since we were going so early in the morning, I thought I could bring some with us. I put it in her blue backpack I make her wear and decided when it was getting warmer we would stop to eat. Where I live, there's a long drive through the canyon and many roads going towards the hike you'd like to go on. This one was a little further than I'm used to, but I didn't care, it was new, and I was excited. So was Kyrie. She cries in the car until we get there. Now I was following the directions on my phone and saw that it had led me towards a thin road that was hidden. No wonder I haven't heard of this place. It was hidden and far up the mountain. The road only fit one car, so the whole time I was so anxious that another car would come down, and how I would handle that, but there never was. I never saw another car. When I got to the parking lot, if I could call it that, I noticed there was only space for like 3 cars, all in a tight space. It was small, so I decided to park my car with the front facing towards the road. I thought maybe it was private property. Checked the app, but it didn't say anything about private property. I shrugged it off, got Kyrie out, prepared us, and saw the trail. Now, even though I knew there wasn't anyone parked there, I kept Kyrie on a leash. I didn't know if there were bikers along the trail, but after 30 minutes or so, I didn't see anyone. I decided to let her off leash. It was a steep hike for the first half, but it was beautiful. We were deep in the woods, and I felt at peace. I used to wear headphones when I hiked, but didn't anymore, so I was enjoying the natural sounds of the forest. It was still early in the morning, so I wore a light jacket and decided when it got warmer I'd give Kyrie her breakfast. Now before you start to hate, I know bringing Kyrie's raw meat was absolutely stupid and ignorant of me. I had never seen a bear or wolf or anything, so I got cocky and just thought it was okay. I learned my lesson the bad day, so no need to tell me I was dumb. But honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you commented that. Now here is where we begin the bad part of this story. The trail finally stopped being steep and sort of an easy hike from here. When you got to the top, you could see through the trees a beautiful open meadow. On the other side of it, you can hear a river and a waterfall. The trail went around the meadow. The meadow was absolutely beautiful with the mountains in the background, the sound of the water. This hike was almost the most beautiful one I had ever been to. When Kyrie and I were sort of in the center of the meadow, she stopped right in front of me and looked towards the meadow. Kyrie always walked ahead of me, and when she stopped, I stopped since I trusted her judgment. Before I could look, the smell hit me first. You know, the typical rotting smell, but oh my God, words cannot explain how bad it stank. It burned my nose and started to make me tear up. I put my shirt over my nose, feeling nauseous, and looked over to where Kyrie was looking. In the middle of the meadow was a deer. Now I've only seen does, but never a male deer in person. But his antlers were huge. Have you ever seen Princess Mononoke? When he sees the deer spirit walking across the water, and how big his antlers were? Almost like that. The beauty of the deer was amazing, but not enough to take away the disgusting smell that was making me sick. The deer was looking towards the mountains and away from me. I thought maybe Kyra's food was going bad. I checked that and it seemed fine. When I looked up again, the deer was looking towards our direction. I noticed that Kyra's hackles went up at that. She started to cry nervously. Now I've heard of Wendigos and skinwalkers. I am Native American. It is common for these creatures to be in our childhood stories. That and also listening to scary stories on YouTube. Now when Kyrie did that, I got a bad feeling in my stomach despite the sickness. It was a Wendigo, and I knew that. Now I didn't know what to do. These creatures were only a part of my stories to make me go to bed, not to instructions of what to do. Plus, my grandmother was the one with the stories and passed away. She was the one with the experience, not my mom or anyone else. I glanced at Kyrie again when she cried, and looked back towards the creature. It started to stand on its hind legs. Holy hell, it was fucking tall, and it faced my direction. It started to walk towards me. I was going to run until I heard in my head, "I am the one of this land." Suddenly, it started to run towards me, full speed. I screamed, called Kyrie, and started to run. Kyrie was following behind me. I started to cry as I was running since I could hear it catch up to me. It was loud. It was destroying everything it came in contact with to get to me. The adrenaline running through me was making me just focus on running. I didn't know where to go, I just ran. The trail suddenly got smaller and bushes with thorns started to appear, but I didn't feel them as they cut my arms. As I heard it got closer, it suddenly went to the left as I ran straight. I somehow had the balls to look back to see it was gone, but also Kyrie. "Kyrie?" I said, but right as I called out for her, the trail ended with a foot drop onto a patch of rocks. I hit my head, bleeding a bit, but again I couldn't feel it that much and just got up. I looked towards the forest when I suddenly heard a loud cry from my right. It was Kyrie. "Kyrie!" I cried out. I stood up, crying and lost at what to do. I looked back to see a river leading up to the waterfall I heard. Suddenly a heavy weight ran into me and we both fell back. I hit my head again on the back and looked up to see Kyrie. Kyrie had blood all over her. It was pouring from her neck. "Kyrie!" I cried out. She was whimpering and breathing heavy. She still had her backpack on with some cuts in it. Before I had a chance to help her, a scream came from the forest. I looked back at the waterfall and somehow had the strength to pick up my 85-pound dog and carry her. I don't know where I was planning to go. I was just running to the waterfall as if it was a safe place. I was almost there when I heard the creature land on the rocks that I did early. I tripped at that and looked back to see it looking at me. Its eyes were black, or I think so. It could also be that there wasn't anything in there. I don't know. I took off Kyrie's backpack and threw it towards the monster, hoping it would take the meat and just leave us alone. I was scooting back towards the waterfall, crying as I did so, holding and dragging Kyrie with my left arm. I found that being so close to the creature made me literally weak to my knees. It walked over to me, taking huge steps. It looked so different than before. Before it looked like a deer, and now as it crawled over to me it looked like a monster. I don't know how else to describe this awful demon, I don't. I'm sorry. But I felt water hit my head hard as I had reached the waterfall. I kept going until I was up against the wall. There barely enough space where water wasn't hitting Kyrie and his faces. Kyrie felt limp at this point. I could somewhat see the creature through the water, but still saw it coming towards me. It stood on its hind legs when it was close enough to me, watching me. The smell was so disgusting, I couldn't help but throw up in my mouth. It reached his arms out to grab me. I screamed so loud, I actually lost my voice. After I let out that scream, another scream came from the deep forest. The creature snapped its head almost completely backward, looking towards the scream. The scream sounded like the one this one had let out earlier. I was still holding onto Kyrie, crying and screaming since its arm was close. It looked back to me, pulling its arm away, and again said in my mind, "I am the one of this land." With that, it took steps back watching me and went down the riverbank. It crawled on all fours, stopping next to Kyrie's backpack. It ripped it apart and pulled out the meat, eating it with the plastic bag that it was in. It suddenly screamed and ran towards that direction of the scream from earlier. When I thought it was gone, I stood up shakily and carried Kyrie towards the trail again. When I was running, I came across my backpack that I had left earlier and stopped. It was ripped apart, so I took off my jacket and wrapped it around Kyrie's neck where she was bleeding a lot. After that, I barely remember. All I remember is carrying Kyrie and driving down, screaming the whole way towards the emergency vet. They asked us what happened and I told them it was a bear. They called the ambulance since I had blood all over me, and they couldn't tell if it was mine or Kyrie's. Kyrie made it through surgery and had to have some stitches on her, along with a pad. It didn't really heal, and a huge bump grew on there. It had been infected but eventually got better. She also had a bite mark on the top of her left eye, but that healed much better. They pulled out a 4-inch tooth. I don't have it because I couldn't even look at it, but they declared it from a bear, even though they said it looked weird. While I was waiting for Kyrie, I went to look up the trail on the app, and it was gone. IDK why or how, but it is. I don't remember where it is either. That's all a blur. I have some pictures up of Kyrie. The one with my niece is a hike my mom took her on with my niece. It had been weeks after, and my mom thought to try and help her through it. Kyrie looks nervous in the picture, but you can see the huge bump on the left side of her neck. There's also a picture with Kyrie and her bandages around her neck, and the one that is the most recent of her neck. It's black. The stitches came out. The last picture is of the top of her head, also black, but it's healed now. I'll find some way to post them. I haven't been hiking since, and I refuse to let Kyrie go. That time my mom took her, she did it while I was at work, but regretted it because she said Kyrie was crying and was so scared they had to just go home. My mom knows I screamed at night from nightmares for a week or two. My mom put white candles in my room to get rid of the bad spirits attracted to my negativity. So yeah, here's my story. I've heard stories where people saw a Wendigo and they didn't get harmed, and God, I wish I went through that. I hate hiking. My therapist thinks I may have some PTSD, but only knows of it as a bear. I'm getting through it. Kyrie is too. Hopefully one day I can go back, but I don't see that being for a while. I'm not the person who throws ish around like this lightly. I'm mostly posting this out of curiosity of other people's experiences with Wendigos, cryptids. I'm not even sure if what my sister and I experienced was a Wendigo, but, you know, I'll let you decide that for yourself. This is also a long read, so I've, 23F, always had creepy paranormal experiences, but when I'm with my sister, 25F, the dial goes up to 10 on the creep factor. So anyway, a couple of months back, my sister and I had to drive up to Colorado on a family emergency. Specifically, we were driving to Dillon, Colorado. The drive up was pretty normal, and nothing weird started to happen until we got right outside of Leadville. That's when things took a turn for the decidedly strange. You can believe me or not about what I'm about to say, but even though it was late at night, I know I'm not crazy. And my sister saw all of this too. So, we're driving and it's pitch black outside. There's very little street lamps, so the only things we can see are illuminated by the headlights. My sister is driving and I'm in the passenger seat. At this point in the drive, we had only a few more hours until Dylan and we were determined to stick it out no matter what, despite the fact we'd been driving for nearly 12 hours at this point. Looking back, I kinda wished we'd had some common sense and found a hotel and never driven on this road at this time of night. It's about 9. My sister has the radio going. I'm staring out the window trying to stay awake when all of a sudden my sister slammed on her brakes. Now, for context, my sister is a cabbie. There's not a whole hell of a lot that would make her slam on the brakes like that. So when she did, I was automatically on full alert, wondering what the hell just happened. Before I can even ask her what made her slam on the brakes, she's telling me to look up. No shit. Standing in the middle of the opposite lane on this deserted 2-lane road is a big as fuck coyote. Bigger than any coyote I've ever seen. Not that unusual. Except that it was just staring at us. Not the car, at us. It was making full-on, dead-ass eye contact with us. Obviously creeped out, I told my sister to just floor it because I didn't like the eerie, almost intelligent way that Coyote had been looking at us. As we passed it, I forced my eyes forward so I wouldn't have to look at it. We kept driving, a little shook up, but laughing it off. After all, we're both from the Southwest, and there's no way a lone coyote is gonna spook us that bad. A little bit further down the road, I'm calmed down again and back to staring out the window. Maybe 5 more minutes pass before I hear my sister ask me, "Did you see that?" Thinking she's messing with me, I'm like, "No, see what?" As I turn to look at her, I can see she's spooked. Believe me, it takes a lot to spook her, so I was immediately concerned. She sees that I have no clue what she's talking about, so she says, "Dude, there was a hand, it just came up out of the back seat and touched the dash." Now I'm even more creeped out. I try to make a joke out of it, saying how it's late and the whole thing with the coyote, but she's insistent on what she saw, so I ask her to replicate it. She gestures to the back seat and says, "I saw a hand come up and touch the dash like this." At this, she makes a fist and taps it against the dash. I shake my head, tell her I didn't see anything, that we should just keep going cause I sure as a hell am not turning back now. But oh man, that was not the end of it. Not even 10 minutes later, we're still driving on this dark, windy mountain road. I'm looking forward, fully awake now, and doing my best to take my mind off the situation, when I happen to glance out the driver's side of the front windshield. Again, on the opposite side of the road, I see a woman standing on the edge of the road. She's all alone, and just standing there in a torn white dress and barefoot. Obviously thinking that this girl needs help, I open my mouth to ask my sister to stop. Before I can get the words out, we're already around the next bend, and as I look in the rearview mirror to check if she's still there, the girl is just gone, vanished. Poof. I'm really freaking at this point, and I just want to get to our hotel. Thankfully, a few minutes later we were in Leadville itself, which, TBH, at around 10-11 at night was just as creepy if not more. I dreaded when we got to the outskirts of town and had to go back onto that lonely mountain highway. Mind you, we're still alone. We haven't seen another car in over an hour, which makes this next part even creepier somehow. So, a few miles on the other side of Leadville, I feel my sister grab my arm. Again, she asks that dreaded question. Did you see that? I say no, obviously. I'm keeping my eyes on my side of the vehicle and have no idea what she's talking about. So she says, and honestly after what happened after this I completely believe her, that she saw breath on the outside of the windshield. Not the inside, the outside. Like someone outside the vehicle had breathed on the glass. I'm really glad that I didn't see that, cause I would have turned the car around. But at this point, we're both like, fuck it, we're almost there, we can hold out until Dylan. So, like dumb idiots in a horror movie, we kept driving. I don't know distance-wise how far away this is from Leadville, but we came up to a weird parking lot area at a bend in the road. I think it was a hotel or something? I'm not too familiar with the area, but it was weird seeing a parking lot and actual lights in the middle of BFE, Colorado. I'm saying this to tell you that as we approached this place, we saw oncoming headlights. Now mind you, this was the first car we'd seen in a long time, but if there was this weird lit-up building out there, and Leadville only a few miles behind us, it wouldn't be that strange to see a car heading the other direction. Except, the car didn't go in the direction we thought. No, we both saw the lights of this car, and we both saw it drive parallel to the road and disappear. Now, we're for sure thinking we're hallucinating and making jokes about aliens, saying how that was a flying saucer, and we could tally that to the list of weird things we'd seen. With not much options left but to drive, we keep going. But man, that's when things started getting really bad. The longer we're driving, the more freaked my sister looks. At one point, she tells me that the lane lines are disappearing, as in, she can't tell the difference between one lane line and the other, on a two-lane mountain road. You can blame this on fatigue, but my sister drives a cab for a living. She wakes up at 2 a.m. to go to work most days. There's no freaking way, no matter how tired she is, that she's hallucinating the lane lines not being there. I can see them just fine, but she swears up and down that she can't see lanes on either side. I think it was only her experience as a cab driver that saved our asses. Now this next part is going to sound insane, and I don't blame anyone for not believing me. I wouldn't believe me if I didn't experience it myself. So, we got the lane lines disappearing, cars disappearing off the road, weird shit breathing on the windshield, and the icing on this cake is that now it feels like the car is doing a free fall down the mountain. No, not like we're out of control. Like there's an invisible force pushing us from behind and trying to make us go down the mountain faster. My sister is riding the brakes like hell, and I'm trying to figure out why it feels like we're in free fall when we're on a less than 20-degree slope. It makes no sense. And as I'm thinking this, I hear my sister ask me, "Hey, is it windy outside?" I shake my head, check my phone, and I'm like, no, there's no wind outside at all. In the car, you would have been able to hear the wind and feel it pushing on all sides, not just the back. Wind makes a very distinctive noise, and so I know that there wasn't any wind that night. That doesn't explain, however, why when my sister told me to look at the trees on either side of the road, they were swaying, bending back and forth like there's a storm outside. But there's no storm. There's no wind, no clouds, nothing. Nothing that could explain why these trees are moving like this. I'm really freaked out now, and I start to pray. I'm religious to a point, and I'm not ashamed to say that I pray when I get scared like this, and I was terrified. Because underneath all of the crazy, this strange, eerie feeling was creeping up on me. It felt like there was something in the woods watching us. The trees felt almost alive, and there was just a darkness. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just evil. It felt evil and wrong, and I just did not want to be there anymore. I started praying harder and told my sister to drive as fast as she could away from that place, which TBH, with everything going on, wasn't that fast. For some reason, I just keep repeating, there's something bad here. Something bad happened here, I don't like it. Saying that over and over again. So, of course, my sister asks, what do I mean and why do I keep saying that? Now, I'm not sure if I'm a medium, but I would consider myself a sensitive. I can pick up on the energy of spirits and places. So, like a dumbass, I open myself up to whatever the fuck this thing is. I can hear my sister asking me what happened, and the word that came out of my mouth, in an inhuman guttural growl, was murder. That voice was not my voice. That thing was not human. As soon as that word left my mouth, I burst into tears. I was so scared. I clutched my Mary medallion and I held my sister's hand. I made her pray the prayer of Saint Michael with me, and when we were praying, it was almost like she couldn't get the words out. Like IDK, something was trying to stop her from praying. I haven't been that scared of something paranormal in a very long time, and I never, ever want to drive that stretch of road at night, ever again. Could we have been hallucinating? Sure. But IDK, this next part somehow creeps me out even more. So, we're at the hotel now, and we're in our room, both talking about how crazy that all was, when my sister says, "You didn't see it, did you?" And of course, I'm like, see what? She tells me, and I believe her, because she was dead serious. My sister can't lie if her life depended upon it because she just starts laughing. It's her tell. That's how I knew she at least believed what she saw. She told me that she saw a skeletal figure, like a human figure in the woods. It was all bone with like rotten flesh hanging off it. Even though its body was human, she said that it had the head of a deer and like glowing red eyes. She looked so scared I don't know how I couldn't have believed her. According to my sister, she saw this thing tailing the car the moment we both noticed the trees moving, so about halfway or a third of the way down. Needless to say, I was pretty glad that she told me that after we got to the hotel. Now, one last thing before I wrap this up. So, my stepmom is from the Denver area and just so happened to have family in Dillon. I casually asked her if she'd ever experienced anything weird on that road, and I didn't even have to tell her which one for her to know the road I was talking about. She said when she was a kid, it used to freak the hell out of her. She can remember falling asleep in the car, and then whenever they got to that stretch of road, automatically waking up because she was too scared to sleep. And the thing about the car driving parallel to the road, well, my stepmom said, and I haven't confirmed this, so take this with a grain of salt, that the roads used to be built differently back in the day, that they would have run parallel to the mountain and not alongside it. She also told me a story of when she was a teenager about how there was a time she and her dad were driving on the road at night. She's in the passenger seat for context. She remembers looking up and seeing oncoming headlights in their lane, screaming and then throwing her hands up out of reflex. Her dad swerves, almost crashes, and then asks her what's wrong. My stepmom, confused, asks him if he saw that car just now, and he says no, of course. TBH, that just confirmed it for me. Oh, and the whole thing about that weird voice? My sister said that when I spoke in that tone, it was about 2 octaves deeper than my natural voice, completely flat, and absolutely not human. Me and my sister both agree that whatever that entity was that she saw was absolutely trying to harm, if not kill us. We both think that it was screwing with her about the lane lines and trying to push us off the mountain. For what purpose? I still don't know, but I honestly don't think I want to. We also agreed that all the freaky shit we saw before was something trying to warn us. The primary reason? That hand with a fist in sign language can mean stop. I think it's possible those other entities were trying to tell us to turn around. Too bad we didn't listen, LOL. But anyway, that's my story of a possible encounter with a Wendigo and other things that go bump in the night. I never have and never will again drive the road between Leadville and Dillon at night or any other time.